I'm back to show you another really lovely pen. It's a Zig Art and Graphic Twin Marker pen. I really do love using these because they're water soluble and you can create some wonderful effects. So we have a pen that's a dual marker with a brush tip at one end and a bullet tip at the other with a 0.8mm line. We have 80 colours and we have a blender pen. Now, what I really love about these is they're Japanese pens, so we know they're excellent quality, and these marker pens, they're just so much fun to use. We have this wonderful brush nib at this side. It's really lovely. You can see these are old pens, but they keep their shape, they don't fray, they don't split, they don't shed fibres. There's no fibres in here. It's like a rubbery type tip. Really lovely and flexible to use. And at the other side we have this bullet tip which gives a lovely clean line. Now I just have to mention about the colours before I go any further. Recently the names of the colours have changed, but on the barrel you'll see a number, and also on the label there's normally a number here as well. So the shade numbers and the actual colours are the same, it's just the names that have changed. So if you have some old pens, always look for the number of the shade when you're trying to replace them rather than looking for the actual name of the colour. Now these are really great because they're water soluble, they're odourless, they're acid free, they're non-toxic, they have a water-based dye ink, and they have the colour-coded ventilated caps. So the other thing that I really like is the ink is highly saturated, so it feels quite wet. Really good for blending. You can blend with the actual brush pen, you can blend with a blender, or you can blend with a water brush. Now I do get quite messy with them because the ink is so wet. It does take slightly longer to dry than some other pens, so just be a little bit careful not to smudge your work. But I just think they are absolutely beautiful, and of course with all marker pens, store them horizontally because that preserves the life of the pen. Now I've done some little shades here. I have about 45 of the colours. Some of mine have run out. It's never a good idea to go out and buy a whole box of all the colours when you're trying a new pen. And you can see here, for some reason I went back over this shade a few times, and I've got a little bit of a hard edge here where I didn't blend it very nicely, but I've left it because mistakes happen. You can see from the other colours it is quite easy to blend them. Now I've done the blending on this side, obviously that's just the pure colour from the pen. I've done the blending with my water brush because I wanted to show you the beautiful watercolour effect you could get. And on this one I've also gone back in several times, just made a bit of a mess of those, but you can see how beautiful the colours are. It's nice to have some flesh colours in here. And with these blues and greens, I think these dark colours are absolutely beautiful, really stunning. Now these pens have the best selection I've found of the browns and the greys, so the neutral colours are really great. We have some quite unusual shades, I think really lovely, and look at all these different browns, really useful. We also have such a great selection of greys, so we've got green greys and brown greys and blue greys, and I really like the fact that you can see the colour, the definition here. We can see almost a sort of pigmentation. It's like granulation on this paper. This is a mixed media paper. It's 250 GSM. I'd always recommend you use a good paper when you're using pens with quite wet ink, or if you're using water. A 300 GSM watercolour paper would also be great, but just look at the effects you can get. Really spectacular. I really do like using them. So what I've done here is just some experimentation. So I've done some lines in two different shades that I haven't blended. I've also done an example of a petal here where I can show I've used 3 colours, but I didn't do any blending. I just laid the colours down. Obviously I've exaggerated this a little bit more just to show all of these petals started off like this. And then with this stripes, I blended with the pen when it was wet. You don't have to completely blend the colours, you can just soften them. And with this section here, I've let the ink dry, and I've shown how you can I still could have completely blended, but I chose just to soften the lines a bit more. And here we can still see all the three colours. And then with this little example, I've used the blender brush with the dry ink. And I think if I had been quicker and I'd used wet ink, I would have been able to completely blend the colours. You can see here we have a nice softening of the edges and the colours, and they have blended into each other. Now this is the water brush. I did use quite a bit of water, and you can see we've almost completely got rid of the colours apart from at the edge, and that is just my blending. And here I have left some of the colours visible, and I've really softened up around the edges here. Really pretty effects with these brushes, really nice. So I hope that you maybe consider these brushes if you're looking for a water soluble brush. I think of all the water soluble brushes I have, these are my actual favourite. They are also very affordable. I buy my brushes, pens, most of them I buy individually, just the colours I really like, the colours I know I'm going to use. This is one range where I really would love to have all 80 shades because I think they are absolutely stunning. And so we know that this is a great make, a wonderful Japanese pen, and I just think of all of my pens, they really are the ones I love using most on my water soluble pens.